New York Times, Bloomberg Businessweek, Vogue, and Wired magazines. Her writing forges paths through the timberlands of sustainable, regenerative, and local agriculture. I went all the way. Food justice, as well as green architecture and houseless issues, with a focus on her home city-state, Portland, Oregon. Not only has she become an accomplished writer, but one fateful day she was given the role of hygiene coordinator in her neighborhood association's quest to help the houseless people who lived in the tented community nearby. Now, Mrs. Wallace oversees a team of 24 volunteers and dedicates her time to coordinate and continue the program that provides showers, warm clothes, and food to unhoused folks in the Sunnyside neighborhood of Southeast Portland and beyond. I'm constantly amazed at her ability to maintain nonstop communication with all volunteers. So too does she coordinate vaccination events and provide gift cards to those that get inoculated. She holds clothing drives with the volunteers and connects with other people who provide pre-made bag lunches, and even she gives out laundry cards, which are accepted at the nicest laundromat I've ever been to. To be honest, I'm not certain of any limit to her powers. I'm actually quite scared of her. Hannah, board member of the Sunnyside Neighborhood Association, geared towards remediating some of the troubles for people living on the street, editor and lead contributor for the Sunnyside Neighborhood News, in which you'll print my first non-self-published work. You're straight up the best human. That's for real. How was that?
Good. Except for I am not the lead editor of the Sunnyside newsletter. I just contribute a column every so often. I couldn't possibly do that as well. I've been asked, but I don't have the time.
Okay, so there's
trying to keep work and volunteer work a little separate.
So I'm putting that on the negative list. So
yeah, negative, not perfect.
But I've still missed some things, and I'm going to go off script. I don't like doing the script thing. So, how did you start the shower project, or how did the shower project start? Where you started giving showers to people who needed them the most?
It was kind of an organic process. We had a this past January, I can't believe it hasn't even been a year, but this last January we had a camp in our neighborhood right next to the Sunnyside school, and because of COVID, school was closed, and so the camp was allowed to remain there. And some of us I wasn't in the neighborhood association, I wasn't a board member, but some of us in the neighborhood wanted to get sort of involved in sort of doing outreach and talking to these folks and finding out what they needed. And we had a connection through Street Roots, which is the local paper that's written and produced for the homeless community, but also really it's for everyone, but it's basically like people sell it and get money. And there's a program called the Ambassador Program, and they basically have a person whose job it is to connect housed neighbors with unhoused neighbors. Her name is Raven, and she came and kind of helped us bridge the gap the first time, which was kind of the hardest. How do you talk to folks? And we basically did that. We went around, we knocked on the tents, and we said, hey, I'm Hannah, I'm from the neighborhood association, just wondering what you could use. We also had hats, and we had hand warmers, and we had, I think, some food. So we were just passing things out. And meanwhile, that helped us start conversations about what do you need the most? And what we heard again and again was not showers yet, because I don't think anyone knew we had access to showers, but laundry. People really wanted a way to do laundry. So we thought, well, how hard is that? There's 2 laundromats in the neighborhood. So we just started buying laundry cards, putting $10 each and handing them out. And then about a month later, the church in the neighborhood, which actually had 2 showers in the basement that were put in by a previous nonprofit, they basically opened up. One of the sort of the minister of the church came to the neighborhood association and said, if you guys want to run a pilot project with the showers, you can use our showers. So they came to us basically. We hadn't even thought of it yet, really. And then that's when I was like, they asked me, they were like, would you like to be the hygiene coordinator? Or maybe they didn't even ask me. It was sort of like, Hannah, you're the hygiene coordinator. So I just ran with that. It was, it was January, it was deepest winter. People were really cold. I thought also, not only is it just a human right to have access to showers or, bathing facilities, but also warm water, in the cold, coming inside, there wasn't anywhere in the neighborhood where folks could come in from the cold. And so that was also nice, because even though there was a pandemic on, it was we all masked up, and because that was before vaccines.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's just so amazing that like homeless people could get like some respite from the environment during those like extreme weather times, especially in Portland. Can get really hot and really cold.
Yeah. So that's how it started, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I mean, basically, for about 6 months, it was 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then and pretty quickly I became known as the shower lady.
Yeah.
No one really knew my name, but they're like, shower lady. They'd see me on the street and they'd be like, shower lady, can I get a shower? You know, so I started walking around with these little slips of paper where I could just write people's appointments on it so they could remember, because a lot of times that was an issue because not everyone has phones.
You should develop a role, like you should wear a shower cap and like, you know, like hand out like flyers and stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
I already have that
like
role.
a shower curtain, like
or
a
I thought about a t-shirt, like the shower lady.
The shower lady.
But now
Yeah.
everyone knows my name. But Sundays, now we have Saturdays. So we basically went back to the church 6 months later and said, hey, it's going pretty well. We haven't had any major incidents that they know about. No. We now want to try and do it on Saturdays because we have a lot of demand. I mean, we have people now coming in from other neighborhoods, as you were saying, not just Sunnyside, just because they know they can get a free shower there. So yeah.
Maybe next step is citywide and then global.
You never know.
Yeah.
I'm always talking to other neighborhood associations. It's not rocket science. I mean, there's a lot of churches in Portland. So, you know, if you have a shower in the church already, then it's a no-brainer if you can get the volunteers.
Definitely. So do you really like to fill that role of hygiene coordinator? Did you want to enter this great like responsibility and like?
I don't think I did at first, honestly. Like I was sort of afraid of how much commitment it would be, and it has been quite a lot, but it's been actually so rewarding that I haven't looked back, basically. And one of the coolest things, well, there's a lot of cool things about it. Everyone's getting showers. That's amazing. People are really happy. Like I see people come in for a shower and they're kind of in a bad mood, or they feel, you know, depressed about this or that. And then when they leave, it's not like all their problems are solved, but they leave with a lighter step and like a smile, or like, and they always thank us. And that feels very meaningful. But the other thing is that during a pandemic, when I think we could safely say that most of us felt very isolated, staying in our homes, not leaving, not having dinner parties, not seeing friends, not going out to dinner, just basically hermits for a year. Then suddenly I was meeting all my neighbors. Like I was meeting like people who I'd never met, who were housed individuals who were volunteering at the showers, but also unhoused neighbors. So it was just like I suddenly met so many more people than I would have otherwise, probably even during a normal year. So it was it was a way of actually getting to know people in my neighborhood, which sounds like Mr. Rogers, and maybe it is, but that was the cool part, and that has been the cool part about it, is just making new friends, basically.
Yeah, so like the capacity for good deeds kind of was really open, like during the COVID times. Like basically, it's just kind of opened this avenue where like the necessity for like doing or reaching out to others was like even like more opportune than usual.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think that I don't know. I mean, for me, I can speak for myself. I felt like I had more time during the pandemic because other things were canceled, basically. Like all the usual events I would be invited to as a freelancer were canceled. Parties were canceled. Social events were canceled. So I had like a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was one of the reasons why I thought, well, I can do this now. Like, you know, but also I think even before the pandemic, like I think the houseless issue in Portland and other cities, probably mostly on the West Coast, but everywhere in the US, has gotten so extreme that you do want to do something to help people. You know, I mean, you want to solve it, but that individuals can't really do that, it seems. But so I think that for a lot of the volunteers, I've had conversations with them. I think that's one of the reasons why it was fairly easy to find volunteers, is because people had been feeling for a long time, like, what can I do to help? What can I do to like, if I can't find this person housing, or if we don't have enough affordable housing in our city, like what else can we do to help them? And so that was sort of the impetus for the neighborhood association to like come up with a shower program. We have a trash cleanup program in which we clean up trash just on regular city streets, but in our neighborhood, but also around camps, you know, trying to help people figure out how to dispose of their trash, because a lot of times they want to, but there's no trash pickup for houseless camps. So it's like this catch-22. And so we have a volunteer in the neighborhood association whose job it is to sort of help, you know, with our help, do some outreach with individuals and say, here's some trash bags, just put it right here, someone will pick it up. Or for a while, we were taking it to the dump and paying the dump fees.
Yeah, I'm actually working on some garbage services and stuff for certain camps.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'm working with Metro and stuff to see what we can do and maybe spread that to a lot of the other camps.
That would be great.
Yeah. And I know that you fill your time. You were talking about how you didn't have time, so you filled it with this. But you worked in the kitchen through college. You
in the cafeteria.
babysat during unpaid internships and other jobs in New York while working for Ms. Magazine, unpaid internship, and then going on to what magazine?
I ended up working at Travel and Leisure. I had like a stint in between at a literary agency, but I ended up working at Travel and Leisure for about 9 years.
So worked your way up like the bootstrap method in New York. And you run every day?
Not every day. Monday,
Wednesday, Friday?
Yeah, like every other day. And then sometimes I run on the weekends.
How many miles do you run?
It's usually about 3.5. Not very long. I used to run more than that, but it's a good half hour, 45 minutes.
That's good. Okay.
Depending on how fast I'm going that day.
Yeah, I was afraid to ask that question. Get like a really big answer. But what are some of those experiences from the shower? Because you talked about before some of those like people who like come out of the shower. I know you ask them, you're like, do you feel great now? And everybody's like, yeah, I feel so much better. you go with the question. Don't you feel awesome?
I don't really ask them that way, but no.
Yeah, no, you don't.
You can tell that people just feel better. And sometimes, like I wrote in that article, they sing. I mean, I've heard people sing in the shower, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because I imagine, I could be wrong, but I imagine that that's one of the few times you feel just really human, like you have your own space, like, because that's one of the things, like, I mean, some people live in tents, some people live on the street. If you live in a tent, you kind of have your own space, but to be indoors and to be vulnerable and like in a warm room, I don't know, I don't know, I think there's nothing like it.
I can say for sure that singing in the shower for some of these people is a moment of absolute freedom that you granted them, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, JK, sorry.
Thanks for that. Hannah, one quick question. Why did you choose this profession, and are you passionate about this, and what makes you keep going on this journey?
You mean the profession of being a journalist?
Yes, and whatever like Cole was mentioning about being a hygiene coordinator and helping the homeless and all those issues.
Well, I don't see that as my profession, but it's more of a calling, I guess, but I'll answer both those questions. So I think I'm very passionate about being a journalist. And the reason I chose that, I think, is because I'll never be bored. Like, I can write about whatever I want to, and I'm constantly learning new things. So it kind of gets me out of my comfort zone. I'm sort of pitching stories about things that, like I just told Cole the other day, I'm writing a story about a cremation company in Portland, and I didn't know much or anything about the funeral industry. So that was like a really interesting story to report because I had to like learn a whole new thing. And then with the hygiene coordinator position, I mean, it's not really, it's an unpaid, it's a purely volunteer position. I don't even know if I call it a position, but I guess it is. And it's been amazing. I don't know if there's a time limit to it. Like, I think, we're all hoping that the city of Portland does something to help get people affordable housing. I know there's a lot of sanctioned camps that are in the works that should be finished by winter time, but I don't think there'll be enough, tiny homes. I don't think that the city will be providing enough tiny homes for all the houseless people in Portland. In fact, I know they won't. So, and those will have showers, and those will have other services, mental health coordinators, and also food and laundry, stuff like that. So some of that will help alleviate, the pressure we feel to run more than 3 days a week. But I think we'll always be there. I mean, I can't imagine that I don't know, always, but I can't imagine it's going to stop in the wintertime. I think we'll keep going. And I know our volunteers want to keep working until people stop needing showers, basically, until people have their own showers in their own homes. Like that's kind of where we're at, I think.
How I can describe it is, or how you described it to me is, the connections that you've made during the shower project and those good experiences, like hearing people singing in the shower and seeing the look on people's faces when they come out of the shower, and just seeing you at the shower project, you're like just booming with energy, and like even people who like talk your ear off about their problems, you're like definitely listening and responding to, like trying to get a word in, but they won't let you. But you help them out like no matter what.
We'll try to.
Yeah,
That's the key.
yeah, you like assist them with their like issues like as much as you can too, and that's amazing. And yeah, I mean, also not to forget that you're a professional journalist. And you can actually see a lot of her articles on www.hannahmwallace.com. And if you look in there, you'll see that every issue is basically like the cremation issue, this new cremation company. What was the name of it?
Solace.
Solace. Um, God gave an insight into the actual funeral services industry, which is kind of like a dark sale industry where they don't tell you the prices, and it's kind of like they sell you into it based on like, you know, in a time of grieving, and they do take advantage. And it's almost like car sales without a price tag.
It's kind of like the wedding industry in a way, because I think the same thing happens to women when they're getting married. Like they're like, whatever, I'll just spend whatever I need to, you know, that kind of. And there have been books written about that. But yeah, but I haven't written this all. I mean, the Solace article isn't published yet, but yeah, no, that was really interesting to learn more about how opaque the funeral industry is.
Yeah,
and that needs to change, and it is changing, starting to change with companies like Solace.
And every article that you do has that tinge of, you know, that's something that I definitely can appreciate, which is having a sustainable or more local, you know, kind of focus on things, or, you know, in terms of like green architecture, or you know, travel when it comes to like a really, you know, local, like sustainable kind of business, or like reform programs in prisons. They have a local gardening project, and then how that helps people out on the outside when they you know, then go on to work in nurseries and stuff like that. Just like everything has that, like that slant that is like meaning centric, I guess.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. So
I try to do that on purpose. I mean, that's my passion, I guess. It took me a while to get there, though. It wasn't always, I mean, because when I worked, one of my first jobs was working at a travel magazine. And while that sounds glamorous, and it was in many ways, you know, writing about travel, getting sent places and blah, 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 I felt at the end of the day like, well, first of all, I couldn't afford many of the places I was writing about. So that was awkward. You know, I was doing it. I mean, they were paying for me to go. So obviously it wasn't my money. But, you know, at the end of the day, it was like, oh, wow, I'd love to be able to stay at this place on my own dime, but I sure can't afford that. So that was awkward. But then also I just felt like it wasn't very meaningful. You know, like at a certain point I was like, okay, I'm writing about fancy hotels and really nice restaurants. Like, yay. Like, I don't know. I just didn't fulfill me. And that was sort of around the time that I started paying more attention to food issues and sustainable food. And like Michael Pollan wrote The Omnivore's Dilemma. And it was like, I started to really read a lot more about agriculture, but also food justice, and like, why is it that, you know, healthy food isn't available and isn't affordable to everybody, you know? So I started to write about those issues, and that kind of like got me out of that.
And that concept of food justice, because I've kind of only just like perused a little bit of what you wrote about it. What is the whole idea behind food justice, or the movement? It's
basically that. It's that everyone should have access to healthy, affordable food. So, you know, there was this, when Whole Foods became popular, it still is, I guess, but before Amazon bought Whole Foods, you know, it was sort of jokingly referred to as whole paycheck, because even though it was like probably the best place to get produce at the time and like healthy organic food of all kinds, it was also unaffordable. So it was like, well, that's not fair. I mean, everybody should be able to eat a healthy diet. Why is it that only poor people, or, you know, poor people tend to eat processed foods because they're cheaper, you know? And so food justice is like, how do we equalize this? How do we make this available to everyone? And so there were a lot of sort of more local movements, not Whole Foods, but Whole Foods eventually tried to get into it. They opened a store in Detroit, and they were trying to like make their prices there a lot more affordable in inner city Detroit. But there are a lot more efforts on the, like, that farmers did, and that sort of public entities did, to make like your food stamps have double the value at a farmer's market. So it would encourage people to use their food stamps at farmers markets, that kind of thing. So there were a lot of incentives to try and help people also to figure out, do you lack the education? Do you not know how to cook? And so a lot of cooking classes for low-income communities, a lot of cooking classes taught after a farmer's market or sort of in school, so there were a lot of aspects of that I wrote about, back in the, 2008, 2009, 2010, those years.
Yeah. And like weird thing with food stamps is that you're not able to buy hot food.
Right.
So like a lot of times with like healthy food, like say you want to eat like a good like, sauteed like kale dish or something like that.
Right.
You can't really do that because not only do you need like the fine cooking sometimes, when people are outside, not only do you need like the fine cooking sort of capability of a stove.
Yeah, when you need a knife
and
you
you're doing it over just a hard like fire, direct fire.
You're like tearing the kale apart.
Yeah. And meanwhile, you're just craving bread and meat, like just anything, just like, just really, hearty or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of also an issue too. So.
Yeah, you need to have cooking. That's the main thing is you need to have a kitchen. You kind of have to have a kitchen in order to eat healthily. It's hard to otherwise. Because with food stamps, you can't buy prepared food, right? That's the whole point. One of those, it does make sense on a policy level because it's like the raw ingredients are cheaper than the cooked food, and so you want to make your food dollars, last longer. But point taken. I see a lot of people, like some people who come to the showers. No names mentioned, but with like a huge thing of donuts, I'm just going to go buy a bunch of donuts with my food stamps because that's what tastes good and, it's affordable and I don't have to cook.
Yeah, it's weird. But I don't know, just an idea. Shouldn't like if Whole Foods wants to like establish itself or be around for a long time, shouldn't they probably set up like a garden on top of the building, like a green architecture like garden where they just immediately like cultivate from there?
That would be super smart. I feel like they talked about that.
Is that too expensive?
It depends on the building. Yeah, I think you have a special reinforced roof to have a roof garden. But I think one Whole Foods might have done that, or some of them might have. But there's certainly like indoor farms in Portland, but they sell to Whole Foods, so it would be different. It's not like a vertically integrated kind of model.
Yeah,
that's a good idea though. It would be a lot more local, for sure.
Once they start like taking over more and more industries and stuff, and then we just pray to them.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like Whole Foods has kind of lost cachet over the years, but it's also more affordable now that Amazon owns them. So there's like, it's good and bad.
Yeah.
I think it's bad in some ways because I don't know. I feel like we should be paying more for our food because the farmers are the people who keep us alive, basically. Like they should be getting good salaries and stuff, but not everybody can afford that. So there's got to be some kind of like equilibrium in terms of making it affordable for people who don't have the paychecks.
Definitely. And food stamps in Oregon, they do compensate for if you buy like fruit or produce and stuff, they actually give you the money back.
They do?
Yeah.
Even at a grocery store?
At a grocery store.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like I think I looked into it a little bit. I think that's probably the case.
That seems very
We'll look it up after.
They do like a double up food bucks program at the farmers market.
Market, yeah, you buy like you have to buy like $10 or something, and then they give you 20. Yeah.
So it's worth it.
Yeah, it is. It is.
If you eat vegetables.
I do. I like just like filled myself on like berries and peaches like one time at the farmers market, and like I actually bought it was salmon like it was like salmon jerky. It was like basically like this sweet like caramelized like salmon.
That sounds really good.
It was amazing.
It sounds really good. And you can get bread. They have bakeries at the farmers market. So I don't think they care what you spend it on. It's like you get the little coins and you can those little like fake monies. You can take them around and spend any of the booths. So it's a great program. I hugely support those programs. They've been very successful all around the country.
Yeah. So just very meaning centric.
But there are a lot of, this is kind of off, well, maybe not off topic, but I haven't written about this. But there are really cool programs here in Portland that help houseless folks get healthier food, like Sisters of the Road, Blanchet House. I haven't been there, but I've heard that the food at Sisters of the Road is really good. Pat over at Beacon Village. Like
Pat's food is amazing.
Right? Okay. So, and that's actually during
Her
the
hot
pandemic.
food.
Yeah, the hot food's amazing, and she
Yeah.
cooks that. And for years, she had a dinner at the Sunnyside Methodist Church on Wednesdays, and that was all homemade. I mean, I helped
Yeah.
volunteer for some of those dinners, and we made it from scratch.
Who cooks that?
Volunteers. But
Really?
Pat's the leading chef, and she loves food. So I'm excited that the new place is opening in Montevilla.
She should open up like a free restaurant.
Well, they're
or
gonna have a kitchen there, and so they're gonna be able to make lunches and things. And I'm not sure, maybe dinners, but the lunches that you've had, the lunches that have during the pandemic been at different parks around Sunnyside, various different places. It's kind of been a pop up, shall we say?
Yeah.
Those have been made by neighbors. So they have
Really?
Sandy has this email list, and it's called the Sack Lunch Bunch. I did it for a while. My husband and I did it. You basically pack 10 to 20 lunches, put them in little paper bags, put them on your front porch. The people from Beacon Village will come pick them up, take them to the park, and serve them. And so different volunteers, different days. So, some days it's like, I know I have a couple friends who do it. Some days it'll be roast beef sandwiches. Some days it's peanut butter and jelly. Other days it's hummus, whatever. I mean, it's always different, but it's not the hot food, but it's like a really nice packed lunch. Yeah.
No, just for background, Pat, I don't know her last name. Schreiber.
Mm-hmm.
And Sandy,
Lofi.
Yeah. Okay, those are weird last names. They are part of Beacon House, which provides hot food and sacked lunches to the houseless community. And they were actually let go from the church that the showers are offered in, so that they were actually displaced from their operating, like their central operating.
They were made homeless, actually.
Yeah, so they've been going from park to park, and they set up at the Mennonite church, they set up at Sewell Crest Park, but after a while people start complaining and saying that the homeless people there disgust them, basically, and that they should leave. I actually saw the police talk to Pat.
Are you serious?
Yeah, the police came up and talked to Pat saying that, there's a problem here, like, you need to go.
Where was that? Sewell Crest?
Sewell Crest. And, but I was trying to get people to, clean up trash and, make sure that everything was, clean about the park. And the park was immaculate for, the entire time I was there. So people just complained. The neighbors did.
That's why they've been kind of roving around, because it's like, obviously people need to eat, and she's not going to stop. And I think it's kudos to them for being so agile and moving around. It's kind of annoying that you can't find, there is going to be a permanent place. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of Sunnyside. I think they want to do both, but they do have now a church that has agreed to work with them. It's not in Sunnyside though. It's in Montevilla. So they're moving locations.
Where are they going?
Montevilla.
Where's that?
It's kind of like Gleason in 70. This is people who are watching this probably don't know Portland very well, but Gleason, so further northeast from Sunnyside.
76th?
76, I think. Yeah, is where the church is. Yeah,
so
it's the Bridgeport United Church of Christ. So that's where they're going to be based. That's where they have a kitchen. They're going to have showers. They're going to have a tiny house village, very small, 10 tiny houses. But they may also try and keep doing lunch somewhere in Sunnyside, Laurelhurst. But the problem is, like you say, they keep getting pushed out of different places. So it's like you kind of have to
Yeah, it's weird because to follow them, you kind of have to ask around, where did they go?
Yeah, really.
People are like, where the lunch is at?
Clandestine lunch group.
Yeah, exactly. They're very.
It's very word of mouth.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you have to say the password and
It's like the underground speakeasy of the homeless lunch. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go there at 1:00 and you can get amazing hot food.
I'll tell Pat you said so.
Continuously does this chili sometimes.
Oh wow!
But then brings cornbread too.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, the combo.
That's great.
Yeah.
And for on a cold day, that's healthy. So that's why I'm trying to get it. There are different services around Portland that do that will make really nourishing, healthy, and local. Oftentimes, food from fresh ingredients that are really good. It's really good quality.
Yeah. The chili will have 3 different types of healthy kind of beans.
Great.
Yeah. She had this ravioli or tortellini pasta dish with cooked kale or spinach in it.
Oh, that sounds great.
And it was fantastic.
Did you tell her?
Had basil in it.
Did you tell her?
Oh, Pat knows.
Yeah.
Pat knows what I think.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, no, she puts a lot of love into those meals, and all the volunteers do too. I know a lot of people who do that. So
Yeah.
and during the pandemic, that was kind of a brilliant way to pivot. I know that's an overused word, but just like everybody was able to stay in their homes. I mean, all you had to do was go to the grocery store to buy ingredients, and then you'd come home and you'd make the meals in your own kitchen. So that was safe, and then you would pack it up and put it on your porch, and the person would come and pick it up. And so it was very like there was no infection.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like, I mean, I think a lot of people wanted to volunteer during the pandemic, but felt like, oh, I don't want to be around other people because I'll get sick, and I don't want to get COVID because we didn't have vaccines at the time. But that was a really great way to help out, because it was like you could make lunch and just give it, so.
It also has that feeling too, like what is it in like Italy or something? They have like those like little things like for when the Black Plague hit, they would put like a glass of wine in like this little cabinet, and you can open it from the other side.
I heard about that. Yeah.
So it kind of reminds me like something like that, like
that was on the Stanley Tucci show. I think I saw that.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah.
And basically smuggling like lunches for people to eat,
Exactly.
like that need food.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So I think that'll continue. We'll see. I mean, I think they're in a moment of transition with the new place, but hopefully there'll still be some bandwidth to keep doing the lunches in Sunnyside.
You see Pat, I mean, Pat's amazing, but you can tell like people give her too much grief.
Mm-hmm.
People give her way too much grief.
Well, she does a lot. I mean, I think they're much more, they are a nonprofit who's basically focused on helping houseless people in all aspects of their lives. So we just do showers. And occasionally people will ask us to help connect them to services, which we try to do. We're learning as we go, because we're not social workers or mental health experts at all. But Pat and Sandy actually have done this for a while longer. And I think they're much more like, they do things like take people to doctor's appointments and help them get their ID replaced and help them get their checks and, like receiving mail for people when they don't have address, all this stuff that goes above and beyond. I mean, I think that's what they want to do, but it is a lot, like I think it's a hard type of work to do. And I've seen a little bit of it just since I've run the shower program. Like it's easy to like not have boundaries, and that can be hard. That can be hard on their mental health. And so I think that is a key aspect of like doing this work, is like you have to be able to, like, as I got to know him better, that he might reveal more of his story to me, but I think he might just want to keep that private, and I would love to see him get a house. I would love to see him get an apartment. I know he's been on a wait list for affordable housing for about 2 years. So that's how it is in Portland. He also seems to be reluctant to get a job, even though I think he still could work, but he just doesn't seem to want to do that. So I think there's a certain level of like, and I'm not judging this, I'm just saying I think it's true. Like if he's gotten used to being houseless and he doesn't mind some of the hardships, he doesn't like moving back and forth. I know that's been hard on him. He's not young. But like at a certain level, it's like, how bad does it have to be? Like I wonder, like, wouldn't it be worth it to have a job just to have some secure housing, so you wouldn't have to worry about like this whole sweeping thing and going back and forth and all of that? But he chooses not to, or hasn't shown that.
Yeah, I think I've talked to this person maybe once or twice, and I think he mentioned that job that he had at Fred Meyer at the seafood department.
Okay.
And he said that the people were kind of awful, and then his only friend left. Mm-hmm. And like also the fact he mentioned that he was throwing out like pounds, like a ton of pounds of seafood a day.
Ugh.
Like throwing out a ton of stuff. Like the meat department basically at a grocery store, you'd be surprised how much, basically how little actually gets sold there. Is
it because they have an expiration date and they have to follow? Yeah,
they have to. It only can be out like maybe 1 or 2 days, especially with seafood. So he was throwing out a ton of stuff.
They have to follow by the health department, but there should be, and I think there is now some kind of a nonprofit that can pick up that stuff and get it to people before, like, a couple days. It's okay, even though it's after the expiration date. There is a nonprofit called Urban Gleaners in Portland that does that. But anyway, that probably wasn't around when he was there.
Yeah. And there's a thing where he knows, everybody knows, the grocery stores lock up the dumpsters. The dumpsters have a lock on them or are completely contained within the building so that nobody can get in there. And there's a lot of fresh produce that goes in there. The meat, I mean, I don't necessarily think could be recovered. I mean, I don't really go for that. But there's a lot of packaged stuff that even like has just a little dent in it or has like a cut in the box, and they throw it out. But they lock up this dumpster to make sure that no one gets it.
And also, they probably don't want other people throwing stuff in there because there's that too.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people use other people's dumpsters.
They use the justification that it might be a health violation.
Mm-hmm.
But really what the issue is that they don't want to saturate the market with stuff that people could otherwise buy.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to drive demand by neglecting the, like, you know, supply.
Yeah. But that's not why he quit, right?
No, that's not why he quit. That's not why he quit.
He's not like, I'm pissed that
No,
we're wasting all this food.
the throwing away the seafood thing was just like kind of an ancillary point.
Yeah.
But you know, the aspect is he like did kind of live in this kind of competitive and maybe even like kind of not aggressive, but almost like constant conflict kind of situation. You know, and also just the sort of irrationality of like the job he was in. I mean, if you're living in the like houseless situation and being swept from place to place and having to be, you know, in constant exodus, like kind of like refugee status, it has to be like really bad in order for you to get to that point.
Yeah.
Like for some reason, like people say that this is a really messed up situation.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it has to be like, it's less bad than like returning for some reason. I wonder
if it's just a little bit like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not coming to me, but basically, just it's just too much work to get back to where you were. So just like you're settling in to this routine. It's a habit. It's become habitual.
Yeah.
And you're sort of used to that. And I can imagine that it would be hard to just be like, all right, I'm going to pick myself up by my bootstraps and like, you know, go spend $1,500 a month when I could be living on the street for free. You know what I mean? Like I can see how that would be a little bit of a disconnect where you're like, I mean, yeah, you'd have a house, you'd have indoor plumbing, you know, all that good stuff. Yeah. But you'd still have to be like spending most of your paycheck towards your rent, which in Portland, I mean, there is not affordable housing. Like you can't, I don't know. I mean, I think New York has more affordable housing than Portland. And this is totally anecdotal on my part, but they have rent control in New York State. They have rent stabilization. I was able to live in New York. My first apartment, $333 a month was the first rent I paid in New York City. And that was because it was a rent stabilized apartment. And that is, as far as I know, never going to change because that actual building or that apartment that I was subletting, it was $999 for the whole apartment. It was a 3-bedroom. And so there were 3 roommates. So it was $333. There's no way I could have lived in New York if I, you know, didn't pay a cheap rent like that. And so I feel like cities like Portland and states like Oregon, we have to allow, there has to be more rent like that or no one's going to stay, you know, or we're going to continue to have homeless people everywhere, you know.
Yeah. So the rent has gotten crazy.
Yeah, it's gotten out of control.
Kind of in a lot of places, like there's been a lot of new development. People were saying for a while that the housing industry was going to, like, there was a bubble and it was going to crash or something because there was so much new development. There were so many new places being built. Right. But still, it's expensive.
Yeah. No, I mean, houses in Portland.
There's not a huge supply or anything.
Ridiculous right now. Like, just, we couldn't afford to live in Sunnyside if we were buying now. There's no way. Like, it's doubled since I moved here.
So I don't know if you're familiar with like kind of after World War I in Germany, there was like that Weimar period where they were doing a lot of public works for housing projects and stuff, like a lot of new apartment buildings and building it in kind of like this new modernist architecture and stuff like that.
Yeah, we should do that here.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, like new, like basically affordable like housing, you know, complexes basically.
They should. I mean, that should be what we're doing, and we're doing it, but we're doing it so slowly, and I don't understand why it's taking so long. It's like you look at the numbers, and you're like, we like passed these bond measures years ago. I don't remember the exact dates, but they were for a lot of money, and guess what? We've only got like, I don't know, 400 units. Like, how is that possible? Like, I don't know. Yeah,
they're building all these expensive apartment buildings,
right?
Like really luxury apartment buildings.
Yeah,
and you know, nobody needs that.
No.
You know,
that needs to be, and people smarter than me need to figure that out because I have no idea why it's taking so long. But it seems like, you know, it's possible in other places in other countries. So why can't we do it here?
They have these communities. I forget what they're called, but like they have like a community garden, or like you know, a community center. Yeah. And everybody like sort of takes apart and kind of like has meetings
in
and
the
stuff.
housing project.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Cool.
I don't know what they're called. I forget what they're called.
Is it a European model or is it something you've seen in the U.S.?
It's like something I've seen here. It's like basically it's like I forget what it's called, like a cooperative form of like a housing complex, and like they're actually I think publicly funded.
Oh, cool.
So that people can like kind of have this sort of cooperative like housing environment, more like a village. You know what I mean?
That's great. Not co-housing. Is it co-housing?
Is it?
Well, there are some co-housing projects here in Portland. We had a friend who lived in one for a while in Killingsworth, and it was I think they had a garden. It wasn't sort of built around a garden, but yeah, they had like a hot tub and they had a kitchen that they all shared. They all had individual kitchens in their own units, so it was a little bit of a mix of things. It was like people could have their own apartments and privacy and whatnot, but then there were a lot of social spaces where they could come together, and you could rent out the kitchen to have like a birthday party, or you could just have a social thing with your neighbors, and then they had the other shared things. I think there was like a guest house on the property, so when anyone had family coming in from somewhere else, you could put them in the guest house as opposed to in your apartment.
Yeah,
that sounded kind of fun. And then and then there's a hot tub. I never actually did go to the hot tub, but there was a hot tub that everyone could communally share. So in some ways, it was kind of like a condo, in that in condo buildings or something like that, they might have amenities like a gym or.
Yeah.
But they had the garden, and then they also had, and I think the point of the co-housing too is that the rent was cheaper, or like the people actually bought into it. So I think the prices were lower than regular apartments.
Yeah.
But so there's some of those around town actually. Yeah, I can find out more about them if you're interested.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you'd be a great advocate for just homeless issues in general, like as a maybe a diplomat, let's say, like for, maybe, just writer diplomat for, increasing some of these issues or whatever.
We're thinking, I mean, actually, we're talking as a neighborhood association about going to City Hall, and they have this period at the beginning of City Hall, City Council meetings where people from the public can just have like 3 minutes to talk about things. And so we've thought about going, and I think we're going to try and go soon. A couple of people from the neighborhood association to talk about the stuff we've been doing. Just to get the word out, because I think one of the things that we hope that we do, I mean, we're doing this because we want to, but we also think other neighborhood associations are sort of known for being kind of NIMBY-esque. I don't know if that's a word, but basically like, just get out of my neighborhood, and we want to, we're all about safety and livability, and like we want to keep our neighborhood clean and keep the crime and the homeless people out, and we don't want crime obviously, but we're like, okay, but these homeless people or houseless people are living in our neighborhood, so let's offer them showers and let's offer them food and let's like do what we can to like have to know some of them. And why can't other neighborhoods? It's not. And actually, it's been actually pretty encouraging lately. We've had 2 people reach out to us. One person in particular from another nearby neighborhood association asking us for advice about wanting to do similar stuff.
Yeah.
So we met with her online and gave her some advice. And so I don't see why other neighborhood associations couldn't replicate what we're doing just by seeing what we're doing, and like doing a shower program in your neighborhood, or doing some trash cleanup, and like maybe lunches, it's not, it takes some organization. I'm not saying it doesn't take work and time, but it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
It's like you're reaching out to your neighbors, you're introducing yourself, you're saying, what do you need? Like, that's the main thing. It's like talking to people and saying, what do you need? Because every neighborhood might have different people, like maybe they have different needs.
Yeah.
But.
And like, you being able to navigate that gray area between completely solving the problem and completely eradicating the problem or punishing the problem. You kind of navigate at least they need showers, to start, somewhere.
Right.
And your ability to navigate that, I think you're really capable and effective at what you do. And I think this video could be just a grant proposal for you.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe that's what we need to do next. We actually have one volunteer. I have amazing volunteers. I just want to say I couldn't do it without all the volunteers that we have. And one of our volunteers, all our volunteers have different skills. One of them works for Northwest Pilot Project, and she's a policy director there, and she's really good at data. And she volunteered. We had coffee once, and she was like, "Can I help you, like, basically like go through all the sign-in sheets and see how many people we've helped since the founding of the shower program?" And I was like, "Please be my guest." So I gave her the whole file of all the sign-in sheets that you sign up when you come in, and she just went through. Yeah. And she went in, and we keep them for COVID reasons because of contact tracing.
Oh.
But when she asked me, I was like, that's actually really interesting. We should find out how many people we serve. And so she went through from January to June, like end of June. We served 63 individuals, different people.
Yeah.
Which is more than I thought. Because, we have a lot of people who are regulars who come back
Yeah,
every
yeah.
day or at least every week. But then we have people who just pass through and we see them once or twice. So she has a whole spreadsheet on and she'll probably do it again. And I think that's actually really good info to have for if we ever apply for a grant, to be able to say, like, this is how many people we serve. It's kind of a basic
Yeah.
bit of information that would be helpful. So it's not totally accurate because we probably lost a couple sign-in sheets and stuff like that, but more or less about 65.
And you help the people who can like make the appointment, but also people who can't make the appointment just show up. You're like, oh, maybe we can get you in and
we
stuff.
Try. Yeah, we try. I mean, there's usually some person who doesn't show up, so that helps.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it kind of works out. There's often some downtime where the volunteers just sit and talk to one another, but that's okay too.
There's some people like my friend Ryan, who just passed away. He always wanted to go to the shower, but like couldn't make it. You know what I mean? He's just like one of the guys who he's like,
he thought about it.
Oh, I wanted to go. Like he like loves all the people there. Like loves getting a shower, but just like for some reason just kept just
the hours
not making it.
Yeah.
Like his hands were just so dirty.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
no, he was the funniest guy out there. I mean, he was great. He was fine.
Yeah.
Like, some of these people, I mean, just doing great without a shower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but and it's tricky to know. Like, I think afternoon's the best time, but for some people it might be better in the evening. Like, but
yeah,
we don't have morning hours on purpose.
You definitely need more resources and more staff.
I mean, that can be the Richmond Neighborhood Association. When they start offering showers, they can do the evening shift.
Yeah.
We'll be like, and then if you miss the Sunnyside showers, go over to Richmond. 5 to midnight. No.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're getting sort of to the end here. We've talked a lot. And we've covered some really great issues, I think. I mean, I talked about what I was interested in.
Yeah, no.
So I don't know if you had fun, but
yeah, absolutely. No, it's good to talk about. I probably talk about it too much to my family, and they're probably sick of hearing about it. But they're actually pretty proud. All the people in my life seem happy that I'm doing this. My mom was a little worried at first about COVID, but she's worried about COVID no matter what. So
yeah,
like, you're going to be around other people. Are you going to be wearing a mask? Yes, Mom, I'm going to be wearing a mask.
My family has no idea what I'm doing.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah.
Not?
No idea.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, actually.
I talk to my mom a lot, and my dad, for that matter, so they know what I'm up to. But
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, when my mom finds out, she's going to be like, what? Cole? Yeah, so great to have you.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thanks for being on.
me. Yeah.